Rabotai, welcome back to Daled Amot Shel Halacha. Eino LaKadosh Baruch Hu Be'olama Ela Arba Amot Shel Halacha Bilvad. We are continuing with Siman Reish Tzadik Tet in Halacha Gimel. Be'ezrat Hashem B'lineder. I'm going to try to wrap up the Halacha today. As this will be part 5 of the Shi'ur, we're going to try to do a Biur Halacha, a long Biur Halacha, but I think we're capable of doing it, and a Mishnah Birur before we move on to Halacha Daled in the following class. A recap of what we did yesterday. We saw in Siman Reish Tzadik Tet in Halacha Gimel. If you guys ever pay attention, I keep on saying the Simanim over. So you ask, why do you keep on saying the Simanim over? If you're going to see it, right, when you look at it, you see the Siman, you know the Siman, how many times you already did it. And I'm going to just teach you guys a very important thing. A lot of times you have people that are learning Daf Yomi, or they're learning Shulchan Aruch, or they're learning Mishnah Berurah, or they're learning whatever, and they don't even know which Siman. They don't even know what is going on. And then eventually when they want to go back and look up that halacha, they're not going to be able to know. But like this, when you keep on saying it, it's a chazara. You keep on saying it, eventually you're going to come to remember the Siman. You know, there is a rabbi, I don't know how many of you guys know of Rabbi Ofer Malka. Very big rabbi, humongous rabbi, Rabotai. And I used to watch his Chidon Halacha. If you guys speak Hebrew, you should definitely listen to him. He's unbelievable. But if you go on Google, he has a I guess it's a channel they have over there. It's called Chidon Halacha. That they have about 20 boys or maybe 15 boys like that sitting. He asks a halacha question, and they have to be able to answer him. And he gives them about 3 minutes. And it's not like just one simple. It's like question after question. They have to be able to answer, but it's a closed book. But once they finish the answering process, now he tells them sources. That's like that, Bukorot. And they start to open the book and go, bam, boom, bam, Siman, Sivkat, Sha'atir, Bir Halacha, bam, Tibur Matchim. Rabotai, I'm telling you, when you look up, it depends who you're looking up to. If you're looking up to great people, even if you're not going to reach that type of greatness, but you reach greatness still. If you look to people that are below you, not that you're going to fall equal to them, you're going to fall way below them. How do you say? You reach for the moon or the stars, and you'll reach the moon. I don't know how the saying goes, but you guys understand the concept. You reach high, even if you're not going to reach the highest point, but at least you reach a little bit below that high point. And that's why it's very important, Rabotai, to look at yourself as already being a Talmid Chacham, trying to remember the halachot, trying to know the halachot, and not just to get by, as they say. Okay. Siman Reish Tzadik Tet, Halacha Gimel, part 5. Small recap, we spoke about yesterday that when a person interrupts to do Havadala, he does not need to bless on the Kos Shel Bracha, meaning on the Kos Shel Havadala, he doesn't have to say the blessing of Borei Priya Gefen. And then we did explain that when he goes back to eat the Suda Shalishit, when he's going back to eat his original meal, he doesn't even have to say the blessing of Hamotzi Lechem Min Haaretz. And we brought proof from Siman Reish Ayin Aleph in Halacha Daled. What does the halacha say over there? That if a person began eating a bread meal before sunset and the sun set, it forbids him to continue eating his bread meal. Remember, I'm speaking about Friday night, by Kiddush. What's going to allow him to eat? By saying Kiddush. If Kiddush is what's going to allow him to eat, then Kiddush is an interference between the bracha of Hamoti that he said before sunset to the bracha of Hamoti that he has to say now after sunset. That's what we're going to tell you, that when a person before sunset was having a bread meal on Friday afternoon, now sun set, since the setting of the sun is which forbids him to continue eating, and the Kiddush is what's going to allow him to continue to start eating, we look at Kiddush as an interruption between the blessing of Hamoti that he did before sunset to the blessing of Hamoti that he has to do after sunset. That's what we saw over there in Siman Reisha and Aleph and Havadala, that when he's going to go back and bless, when he's going to go back and eat that original meal, he has to say the blessing of Hamoti Lechem Min Haaretz, which wouldn't be the case in Havadala, because over there we're speaking about where the halacha requires you to stop. So once halacha requires me to stop, I need something to allow me to start, which is Kiddush. If I have to have something that's going to allow me to start, then that Kiddush, which is that something that allows me to start, is considered to be an interruption between the Hamoti bracha before to the Hamoti bracha now. But in our case, we're learning from there, we're making a deal, we're making an implication. When it comes to Havadala, meaning when it comes to Sudah Shlishit, Amot Shabbat, that if a person began before sunset to eat a bread meal, now when sun set, can I still continue eating, or is it forbidden for me to continue eating? We saw in Halacha Aleph, in Siman Reisha in Halacha Aleph, clearly allowed to continue eating until after when the stars come out, until 9 p.m., until 10 p.m. You can continue eating, there's no problem. Once you began in a permissible manner, you're allowed to continue even after nightfall. So we see from over here clearly that if nothing stops me from eating, like by Kiddush, the sun set stopped me from eating, and Kiddush allowed me to eat. But over here, in our case of Sudah Shlishit, does the night stop me from eating? No. So if the night doesn't stop me from eating, I'm also going to tell you, I don't need the Havadala to allow me to eat. So therefore, if a person, he goes ahead and he does Havadala in the middle of his Sudah Shlishit, after one Shabbat came out, meaning once it's dark outside, we are going to tell you that when he goes back to the original meal, he doesn't have to say the blessing of Amot Lechem Min Haaretz. Why doesn't he have to say the blessing of Amot Lechem Min Haaretz? As we explained, because this Havadala is not coming now to allow you to eat, because you had nothing that forbade you from eating. Let me try to compare and contrast. Let me put it to you like this. Let's say like this. Beautiful. Let's say a person began eating when it was dark. He's not allowed to eat. So it's also for him to eat, correct? It's already dark. He didn't begin in a permissible manner. Let's say sunset was at 6 o'clock. He decided to eat at 6:30. When already the stars came out, it's also for him to eat. Fine. He began in the wrong time. So the halacha says if you began in the wrong time, halachically you have to stop. Remember, now before he started in the wrong time, he was eating bread. So one more time. 6 o'clock is sunset. 6:30 is nightfall. All right, I'm just going with 6:30 just to make it, again, really it would be 6:15, but I'm going with 6:30. Right? 6 o'clock is sunset. Let's say 6:30 is already nightfall. It's completely dark. Now he goes out and he washes his bread for the Sudah Shlishit, which he was not allowed to do. Now, we have to tell him you have to stop eating. The halacha says you have to stop eating. Here we go. So if he stops eating now, and he goes and he does Havadala, because this Havadala is going to what? This Havadala is what's going to allow him to continue eating. Because before Havadala you cannot eat. So if this Havadala is what's going to allow me to continue eating, then at this Havadala I'm going to look at it as an interruption between the Hamoti I said in the wrong time to the Hamoti that I'm going to have to say when I come back to that same meal. The same thing like with Kiddush. Yes, you guys are with me? One more time. If a person begins to eat bread in the wrong time, where halachically he has to stop, if halachically I have to stop, then what's going to allow me to start to eat is Havadala. So if Havadala is allowing me to eat, beautiful. So when I want to go back to my original food on which I already blessed, since Havadala is what allows me to go back to eat, and Now I have to go ahead and say Hamotzi again. Why? Because I look at the Havadala as an interruption. Because it allows me to eat. The same case with the Kiddush. So let's go back to our case. In our case where I began in a permissible manner to eat the bread, halachically I didn't have to stop. Halachically, does the Havadala have to allow me to continue to eat? No, because I didn't have to stop. Yeah, but Rabbi, you did Havadala. Correct, I did Havadala. But I did Havadala for myself. And since I did not need to stop halachically, and the Havadala is not coming to allow me to eat, so even though I did the Havadala, when I'm going to go back to my original eating that I started in a permissible manner, I don't have to say the bracha of Hamotzi Lechem Min Haaretz. Okay, Rabotai, I hope that's clear. If you didn't get it clear, please refer back to the previous shiur. But we need to understand, whenever you learn Halacha, these are the fine lines, these are the fine diyukim you have to make, especially when you're doing the Biur Halacha and he's throwing there and here, and so on and so forth. You have to try to stay focused, okay? So that was the small review that we did for yesterday. Now we're going to the V'yesh Omrim Shetzarich. We spoke about in Halacha Gimel, Kishemavsik L'havdil, when a person interrupts to do Havdalah, Ein tzarich levarech borei pri hagefen, al koshel Havdalah. You don't need to bless the blessing of borei pri hagefen on the cup of Havdalah. V'yesh omrim shetzarich. And there are those that say you do need to bless the blessing of course on the koshel Havdalah. Now you have to understand, if this is part 5 of the shiur, you have to know the scenarios that we're speaking about, because I'm not going to go through each and every one of them. If you follow through step 1, 2, 3, and 4, you'll know exactly on which scenario this is going. In any event, so let's get back into the halacha. No, there are those that say, in the circumstances that we had learned in the previous classes, where you do have to go ahead, where you do Havdalah, and we tell you that you don't have to say the bracha of Borei Pri Gefen on the koshel Havdalah, this rabbi is going to tell you, no, they're going to tell you, even in those circumstances, you're going to have to go ahead and bless the blessing of Borei Pri Gefen on the kos Shel Havdalah. Now, if we look into the Biur Halacha, it's about maybe 24 lines long. Might look a lot. But Rabotai, look how the Biur Halacha is going to go ahead and try to explain what these Yesh Omrim want. How can they tell us you have to bless, okay? So let's see the Yesh Omrim. So he says like this. V'yesh Omrim shetzarich. And there are those that say you do need to go ahead and bless on the koshel Havdalah, the blessing of the Borei Pri Gefen, in the required circumstances like we saw in the previous classes. Hine bebeit Yosef v'chen bebeit chadash. Here in the Beit Yosef and so too in the Beit Chadash, Umagen Avraham and the Magen Avraham, all three of them, the Beit Yosef, the Beit Chadash, and the Magen Avraham, Dachaku atzmam liyashev tam hayesh omrim. They push themselves to settle the reason of the Yesh Omrim. They don't understand how in the world did these Yesh Omrim. Okay, so I'll tell you how do you know who these Yesh Omrim are? If you look on the Yesh Omrim Shetzarich, if you look over there, there's a small vav. If you look onto the Ber Hagol, it's on my right hand side. It says over there, Vav Ledata Maharik. Right, but again, remember we showed this before. Right over here. Right over here. Over there it says small Vav Ledata Maharik. That's according to the opinion of the Maharik, like we saw in Halacha Bet, where the Gaon Mevilna actually brought it down in the Biur Halacha also, like we'll see now also B'linadar. Okay. So he says, the Beit Yosef, the Beit Chadash, and the Magen Avraham, they push themselves to settle the reason of the Yesh Omrim on how he can say, you have to say the blessing of Borei Pri Gefen and the koshel Havdalah. Why? Because it doesn't make sense. Here we go. The B'Kiddush Kaimulan, because when it comes to Kiddush, we hold Bereish Ayin Aleph, in Siman Reish Ayin Aleph, Siv Dal, in Halacha Dalet, which we did do, the Ein Tzarich Lachzor Ulevarech Borei Pri Hagefen. You don't need to go back and say the blessing of Borei Pri Hagefen. Now, Rabotai, we did Siman Reish Ayin Aleph yesterday. Okay, let me see something. Let me just see something. All right. I'm not going to go through the whole halacha. I'm just going to go to that point. Okay. He said like this. If they were drinking wine initially, he's only going to say the Kiddush blessing without the blessing of the wine and the Kiddush. And remember the law. Kiddush has a stringency that Havadala doesn't have. So if Kiddush we do, which is very chamur, which is very important basically, and we're telling you not to bless on the kosher Kiddush, how in the world is the Yesh Omerim telling me that I have to go and bless on the kosher Havadala? Remember, in this case also I shouldn't bless, because like we saw, specifically in Sivkat Tetet in the Mishnah Berurah, what happened over here? You have to understand, you are in a bread meal. Or even if you were not in a bread meal, you were just having a wine, you were having only a drinking party. Fine, no problem. Or in a bread meal where you had wine and you blessed already. So you already basically have that blessing of Borei Peri Geffen. So why are you telling me to bless? If over there, if by the case of Kiddush, if I started drinking wine before sunset, let's say I decided, me and my wife, I said, no babe, Rabotai, I don't drink alcohol. No alcohol, I'm just saying, I shouldn't say my name, right? I don't drink alcohol, Rabotai. The only time we'll drink alcohol is with the 4 cups of wine, when it's 3.5%, 5%, I don't know, whatever they have those. Or on Shabbat, if I have to do Kiddush, I'll do Kiddush, but it's, Rabotai, alcohol, stay away from, drugs, stay away from, cigarettes, stay away from, and so on and so forth. You want to be mentally, Rabotai, normal, and this is one of the things people don't realize. They want to have Oneg Shabbat, which is good, you can have l'chaim, but are you really enjoying Shabbat, or is your l'chaim, your alcohol, enjoying Shabbat? Or a lot of times people do Simchat Torah and they drink alcohol. Are you really having Simchat Torah? The Simcha has to be with the Torah, not with your alcohol. Are you really being you? Or are you allowing somebody else to be you? Anyway, Rabotai, alcohol is a humongous problem. To drink alcohol is a very big no-no. Rabotai, do what you have to do, but again, I should have said myself, because I don't drink alcohol and I don't, Baruch Hashem, smoke or do all these things. Even before I was religious, it's common sense. Why in the world would you pay for something that's going to kill you? Alright, as simple as that. Okay. Let's get back. Okay, let's say a guy was drinking with his wife wine on Erev Shabbat. Meaning, Friday afternoon, he says, babe, let's have a glass of wine. Baruch atah Hashem, Elokeinu melech olam, Borei Peri Geffen. They drink, l'chaim to you, l'chaim to me, all these l'chaims, okay, whatever it is, fine. Now, sunset came in. The halacha says you have to stop drinking and do Kiddush. But what kind of Kiddush are you going to do? You're going to only do Kiddush on the Kiddush, meaning you can't say the blessing of Borei Peri Geffen, and the only thing you're going to say is the Kiddush blessing. Let me just find it. I know I mentioned one time, but I just want to make sure people get it. I just have to have it correct. Yeah, I know. 1 second. Here. Right, if we look over here, we have Yom HaShishi. Then you have in the middle, right over here, the Savri Maranan, Borei Peri Geffen. Right? And then you have the Kiddush Bracha, which right over here, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, Asher Kiddushem b'mitzvot tzibanu. Right? Baruch atah Hashem, Mikadesh Hashem, right over here. Right? So that's the Kiddush Bracha. If on Friday afternoon, if I started having the wine before sunset, now sunset came in, you're telling me on Kiddush, I cannot say the blessing of Borei Peri Geffen. How in the world are the Yesh Omerim telling me now in Siman Reis Aditet, in Halacha Gimel, that if I was having wine before sunset, and now once nightfall falls in, where everybody says you have to stop, correct? Over there, Halacha, everybody says you have to stop. 1 second, let me see something. Yes. Okay, 1 second. Yes. When it comes to drinking alone, we have to stop. 1 second. Correct. Ayushutim. 1 second. Yes. Where's that halacha? Yes, in halach aleph. Vim haya yoshev in Siman Reish Aditet in halach aleph. Vim haya yoshev v'shnei v'chashchalot tzarich lafsik. Over there, how much more? If over there you have to stop. But nevertheless, even though over here I have to stop, how are you going to tell me to go ahead back and bless the blessing of Borei Peri Geffen and the kosher Havadala? Because I have to do Havadala. Because I cannot continue now like I gave you the case before. But the problem is, how can you tell me to bless on the kosher Havadala where over there you don't require me to bless? In the case of Kiddush. Okay. So let's see this one more time. הנה בבית יוסף וכן בבית חדש ומגן אברהם, דחקו עצמם לשבטם היש אומרים. בקידוש קיימלן, בסימן ריש עין א', סיב ד', דאין צריך לחזור ולברך בורא פרי גפן. Because by Kiddush we hold in Siman 271 and Halacha 4 that you do not have to go back and say the blessing of bori peri gefen. If that is the case over there, how much more should the case be over here? Now let me tell you outside. I just don't want to keep it in the air. Well, okay, we have only two scenarios. One, put it like this. Case A. Case A was when a person, let's say, even if he started drinking the wine before sunset, on Suda Shalishit. Let's say he wants to have Suda Shalishit without bread. He was just going to have wine before sunset. So we know the halacha with that. It says that the maximum we're going to allow you to go up to is up to when the 3 stars come out. So after once the 3 stars come out, once it's already set, we're going to tell you have to stop. And you're going to have to do Havadala if you want to continue drinking. That's case number 1. Case number 2, you're dealing with a bread meal, and you said the bracha on the wine in the bread meal. Since you started that in a permissible way before sunset, even when you're going to do the Havadala, we're not going to tell you have to stop because you could continue doing it. But let's say when you do want to do Havadala, in both of these cases, the halacha is going to tell you don't have to say the blessing of bori peri gefen on the Shel Havadala. You don't have to say it. So how can these Yesh Omrim come and tell me, let's just rule out for a second, let's keep out the bread meal out. I'll tell you why. Because when you compare the bread meal of Havadala to the bread meal of Kiddush, there's two separate comparisons. Why? Because by the bread meal of Havadala, sunset doesn't forbid me from continuing to eat or to drink. By Kiddush, sunset forbids me to eat or drink. So that's over here, that when I was eating the bread, I have to go back and say Amot on the bread. But if I'm going to do Kiddush, and I have to say the Hagiven bracha, on that I can't say Hagiven because I already said Hagiven in the bread meal. So Kiddush is an interruption for the Hamoti blessing, but not for the bori peri gefen blessing. Over here also you're going to say, but over here it's even stronger because over here the halacha says you don't have to stop. So if I don't have to stop, then when I'm saying Havadala, that's not coming to allow me to eat. If it's not coming to allow me to eat, beautiful. So therefore, when I'm going back even to Amoti, I don't have to bless Amoti. And even the wine, when I'm going to do the Havadala, I don't have to say the koshel, the bracha bori peri gefen and the koshel Havadala. Okay, so these are the comparisons. This is one comparison. What about the original case? What happens if I was having wine before sunset on Shabbat, meaning on Saturday afternoon? Before sunset, I was drinking wine. If over there, by the case of the Kiddush, if I was drinking wine before sunset, and over there you tell me I do have to stop halachically, over here I also have to stop halachically. But over there in the Kiddush case, I don't have to say the bracha of bori peri gefen on the koshel Kiddush. So how in the world can you tell me over here I have to say the bracha? It doesn't make sense. So that is why they are surprised with the Yesh Omrim, which is the opinion of the Maharik. So he says like this: V'amagen Ram asik. The Magen Ram, he concluded. Listen how he wants to make sense of the Yesh Omrim, because it doesn't make sense. Because you have to remember, if Kiddush, which has a greater importance, and you don't say the bracha, how much more so of Havadala, where it has lesser importance, you shouldn't say Havadala. You shouldn't say the bracha of bori peri gefen and the koshel Havadala. So he says like this. But Magen Ram asik the tam, the Magen Ram, he concluded, he said the reason like this. The hatam Yesh Omrim, the reason of the Yesh Omrim, who? Like I wrote in the Mishnah Berurah. So let's just go to the Mishnah Berurah now. We're going back and forth. So if you look into Simchat and Yud, and he says, there are those that say you do need to go ahead and say the blessing of bori peri gefen and the koshel Havadala. Why? Severely who they held, the koshel Havadala hu inyan bifnei atmo. That the cup of Havadala is a matter unto itself. It has nothing to do. It has nothing to do with the meal. Rabotai, that means to say like this. Put it to you like this. In the Siman Reish Ayin Aleph, I hope I didn't lose you guys so far. In Siman Reish Ayin Aleph in Halacha Dalet, the reason why you're going to tell me I don't have to say the blessing of bori peri gefen and the koshel Kiddush, because over there, Kiddush is part of the Suda. Because you can't eat without Kiddush. Like we saw in the Mishnah Berurah, that you have to do Kiddush before the Suda, and it has to be done in the Makom Suda. So it's connected to the Suda. So therefore, good, you'd have to bless. But over here he says, Havadala, they want to learn. This Havadala has nothing to do with your Suda. Good, you're having the meal. I'm very happy. Have the meal. What does Havdala have to do with your meal? Like we said earlier, Havdala in this particular case, Havdala is not coming to allow me to eat. That's not what it's doing, because I don't need to allow it to me. I don't need Havdala to allow me to eat, because I didn't have anything that forbade me from eating. So therefore Havdala is by itself. So if Havdala is by itself, so I have to say no bracha. That's the way the Magen Avraham wants to understand the opinion of the Yesh Omrim, which is the Maharik. So let's go back into the Biur Halacha now. But Magen Avraham asik the Tama Yesh Omrim hu kimo shekatati b'Mishnah Berurah. The Magen Avraham, he concluded the reason of the Yesh Omrim, the reason why they say you have to bless. He said, like I wrote in the Mishnah Berurah, which was what? Because he wants to learn that Havdalah has nothing to do with the meal, and it's something by itself, that you have to bless the blessing of Brei Geffen on the kos Shel Havdalah. Ubebiur Hagra katav, and in the Biur Hagra he wrote, listen to this, Rabotai. Dahayesh omrim lo hichmir lachzor levarei Brei Geffen rak shamru mitchila b'oven avdil. He wants to say, do you know when it says in Yesh Omrim shetzarich, when the Yesh Omrim tell you read that you have to go back and bless the blessing of Brei Geffen on the kos Shel Havdalah, you know the case we're speaking about over here? Not a regular case. Not a regular case. He's talking about over here that in a situation where they went ahead and they said the words Ba'uvin Avdil. You guys remember in Halacha number 2, Siman Tet, where you say Ba'uvin Avdil, you have to go back and bless if it was only drinking alone. So we show again, Halacha, we don't go, even if you say Ba'uvin Avdil, you never say the bracha. In Halacha, right? Okay, I don't want to get into the Halacha. Halacha, Rabotai, we don't bless. Ashkenaz, we have a machloket, we don't bless. Meaning, I don't want to get into Rabotai. If anybody wants, please listen to Siman Tet in Halacha Bet. Listen to that Halacha, you'll see that there's differences. I don't want to get into that because you'll be here another 6 hours. Okay, anyway. So, one more time. The Yesh Omrim, when were they stringent to go ahead back and bless the blessing of Brei Geffen and the kos Shel Havdalah? That's specifically when they said the words Ba'uv and Avdil. But if they would never say the words Ba'uv and Avdil, yeah, he would agree. They would agree with the Stam opinion that if a person interrupts to go ahead and to do Havdalah, even if he was in a drink meal, but he didn't say the words Ba'uv and Avdil, yeah, you will not have to say Brei Geffen and the kos Shel Havdalah. Of course you're not going to have to say it. Okay, so here, the Biur Hagra pushes to say that is going on the case where they specifically said Ba'uvin Avdil. Okay. V'hayesh omrim hazeh, and these yesh omrim, azel l'shitato, he went according to his own reasoning. B'siv bet, in siv bet, the sphere because he held sham over there. But Ba'uvin Avdil, but when a person says come and let's do Havdalah, the tzarich lahavsik, because they held, if you guys remember in Halacha Bet, that when a person says Ba'uvin Avdil, you do need to stop. The Sham Hudat Maharik Lefi Dvarov. According to the Gaon Mevilna's words, that's the opinion of the Maharik. V'chem bezen, so too in this case. U'memela and Kamzad Lididan Desvirle Sham Kidei Kamaita. Since we hold like the first opinion over there in Halacha Bet, that Ein Tzarich Lachzor Levarech Av Kashamru Ba'uvin Avdil, you don't have to go back and you don't have to bless and the wine, even though you said the words Ba'uvin Avdil. All this is when you are in the middle of the meal. But if they were only dealing from the onset in drinking alone, and they said, come and let's do Havdalah, it seems that according to everybody, when you go back to drink the wine, you're going to have to go ahead and say the blessing again. Because we don't find the first opinion, which is the Stam, he didn't argue on this. Rabotai, in this halacha, if you remember, Rabbi Dahan brought down that even if a person was only drinking alone on Saturday afternoon before sunset, and then even if the person said right after sunset already fell in, he's not allowed to continue drinking, and so on and so forth. And even if he says the words Ba'uvin Avdil, but they don't want to do Havdalah, they don't want to listen to us. We saw before in the Beit Yosef that Rabbi Dahan brought down that a person, when he's going to go drink the wine now, even though he's not allowed to drink it, still he doesn't have to say the bracha. Not like the Mishnah over here that says you do have to say the bracha. And he says over here because we don't find that the first opinion argued on him in this reasoning. והנה משהו מזה דהגרא סובר כדת התז בריש עין א' סעיף ד' לעניין ברכת ברי גפן על כוס של קידוש, כי שאמרו בואו נקדש. He says, and it's implied from this, that the Gaon of Vilna held like the opinion of the Taz, if you remember, in Siman Reish Ayin Aleph in Halacha Daled, regarding the blessing of B'rei Geffen and the Kos Shel Kiddush, when the people said, Ba'u Nikadesh. V'ayin ma shekatavti le'el, b'shem ha-Tosefet Shabbat, look what I wrote above, in the name of the Tosefet Shabbat, which we actually did in the previous classes, not the last one, but the one before that. ואם כן, if so, ממילא לפי זה אין להחמיר לדבריו מה שכתב מגן אברהם שיש לזה שלא להבדיל באמצע סעודה. According to this, if we're going to go like the first opinion, one shouldn't be stringent like the opinion, like what the Magen Avraham wrote, that one has to be careful not to do Havdala in the middle of the Su'udah. וגם שערי האחרונים הקשו על מגן אברהם בזה. Also a lot of other אחרונים, they questioned the Magen Avraham in this. The Maharik lo katav ze ele l'shitato b'sif Aleph. The Maharik, he went only according to his own opinion in Halacha Aleph. The Svirale, because he held the bevadai hashecha tzarich lehavsik. Because when it's 100% dark, you have to stop, like we saw in Halacha Aleph in Siman Reish Tzadik Tet. V'kemur b'dvar, like it's explained in his words, v'chein katav ha'mechatzit shekel, and so too the mechatzit shekel wrote that according to the Maharik, that he's going really like the Yesh Umrim in Halacha Aleph, where they say that if you started before sunset, you're going to have to go ahead and stop once it becomes dark. You can't even continue. Where am I? Okay. V'im ken, and if so, Mimela Lididan comes out, according to us, the Hamincha Keswara Rishon B'Siv Aleph, that our minhag is like the first opinion in Halacha Aleph, the Ein Mafsikin, that we don't stop, like the Magen Avraham wrote in the name of Rabbeinu B'Chaya, Bevadai ein tzarich levarech borei Pri Gefen al hakos. For sure, you do not need to bless the blessing of Borei Pri Gefen on the cup. Hayotze mikol zeh comes out from all this. The hamavdil be'emtza hasu'uda. Anybody who interrupts his meal to do Havdala in the middle of the meal, pashut ubarur is simple and clear. The ein tzarich levarech birkat borei Pri Gefen al hakos. You don't have to bless the blessing of Borei Pri Gefen on the cup of Havdalah. Im berech mitchila al hayan, if you already blessed from the onset on the wine. Umikol makom, nevertheless, ho'il v'nafka mifumi the Magen Avraham, since this law came out from the mouth of the Magen Avraham, v'gam kam achronim hi'itiku dvar, and also many other achronim, they copied his words. L'chen katavti b'Mishnah Berurah, therefore I wrote in the Mishnah Berurah, that's why I said that is the best possible way. One should be careful not to do Havdalah in the middle of the Su'udah, in the middle of the meal. Now, Rabotai, this was the whole Biur Halacha. Let's go to the Mishnah Berurah and Sivkat and Yud. He's going to summarize everything in short. We'll see what the Halacha is. If you got lost, Rabotai, not a big deal. Don't feel bad. Go over it, record, whatever. Go back, review. Rabotai, you'll get there's a lot of important points over here. I know I went a little bit quick, but it's not really halach l'maisa. But nevertheless, I just wanted to go to the Biur Halacha to show you how we make sense of this yesh omrim that they say you do have to bless. Nevertheless, Rabotai, and Sivkat Yud in the Mishnah Berurah, where it says v'yesh omrim shetzarich, where it says over there that the ones that say that you do need to bless on the kosher of Havdalah when you interrupted for Havdalah, Svir lehu they held. Why do you have to bless on the kosher Havdalah? The kosher Havdalah hu inim b'fnei atzmo, because the cost of Havdalah it's by itself. Ve'en shach l'suda, has no connection to the meal. Ve'ha'ikar kedeya rishono. The main halacha is going to be like the first opinion. What did the first opinion say? That if a person was sitting and he was in a meal, or even if a person was sitting and he was only drinking alone, and now they decided to go ahead and do Havdalah, are you going to bless the blessing of Borei Pri Gefen on the kosher Havdalah? The halacha says, Ein tzarich, you don't bless the blessing of Borei Pri Gefen on the kosher Havdalah. And that's going to be the halacha. Umikol makom, nevertheless, since the Magen Avraham brought this whole piece down, and he said he wants to be careful, and so on and so forth, and other rabbis also quoted the Magen Avraham, of bringing down the opinion of the Maharik, we have a problem. That's what he says right now. Nevertheless, let me see over here. Okay. Nevertheless, טוב להיזכר לכתחילה שלא להבדיל בסעודו לא על השכב ולא על היין אם כבר בירך מתחיל על היין. Nevertheless, he says it's good that one should be careful initially not to do Havadala in the middle of the meal, not on sheikha, meaning which is beer, not on beer, v'lo al hayan, and also not on wine. When are we going to tell you that? Im kvar berech mitchil al hayan. If you already blessed on the wine, then we're going to tell you not to do Havadala in the middle of the su'udah. But if you didn't bless on the wine, then you could go ahead and try to do on the beer or even on the wine, because now you don't have that problem. What happens if a person who did say a bracha on the wine prior to saying Havadala, he's forced, he has to really do Havadala. I don't know, he has to do Havadala because he has to run out to work, or whatever the situation might be, or his wife has to go, whatever the situation might be. If he's forced to interrupt for Havadala and to do the Havadala, for example, or he's giving you a case of it actually. He's saying, for example, if you were only drinking, only from the onset you were in the drinking, you were only drinking alone, lo yivarech, you shouldn't say the blessing of Borei Pri Gefen on the kosher Havdalah, the ha'ikar k'de'ea rishona, because the halacha is like the first opinion. So over here he actually did bring down, he gave you a case. If a person is forced to stop and to interrupt and to do Havdalah, okay, I see how he wants to learn. He wants to give us a particular case. Not that if you have to really go through it, but that could also be it. But over here he's telling you right now what happens if a person began drinking alone. You were having a Saturday afternoon before sunset, you and your friends were just having a wine drink. Now sunset hit and the stars came out, you're not allowed to continue drinking like we saw in Halacha Aleph. So in that case, you're forced to stop and you're forced to do Havdalah. So we're going to tell you now, when you're going to go ahead and say the blessing of Borei Pri Gefen and the kosher Havdalah, we're going to tell you, make sure not to say that blessing. Even though it's printed in the Sudurim, you're not going to say it. Okay. Rabotai, let's do the Halacha. Let's see what we have to know. Halachically speaking, I'm going to summarize Rabotai Halacha today, and with this we conclude Halacha Gimel. Halachically speaking, in Siman Reish Tzadik Tet, in Halacha Gimel, when a person interrupts, now I'll give you all the cases, Belinadur. When a person interrupts to do Havdalah, he does not need to bless the blessing of Borei Pri Gefen on the kos Shel Havdalah. In which cases? According to us, it doesn't matter even if you said the words Ba'uvin Avdil. If you said the words Ba'uvin Avdil in the middle of the meal, we're going to tell you, you still are not going to say the bracha of Borei Pri Gefen and the kos Shel Havdalah again, as long as you had wine before in the bread meal. Because remember, if I didn't have wine in the bread meal, and even though I said Ba'uvin Avdil, what am I going? Why should I be blessing on the wine? You understand, Rabotai? So therefore, if a person says Ba'uvin Avdil in the middle of a bread meal, where in that bread meal he had wine, so you would have thought maybe now he has to go ahead and say a new bracha like the Taz. Even the Taz actually we said that he agrees with this. In the end, we concluded that he agrees with this. So let me go back. Let's start from the beginning one more time. If a person interrupts his meal, if a person interrupts for Havdalah, he does not need to say the blessing of Borei Pri Gefen and the kos Shel Havdalah. In which scenarios? Case number one, even if you said the Ba'uvin Avdil and you had a wine drink before where you did bless the bracha Borei Pri Gefen, now when you're going to go ahead and say the Havdalah bracha, you're going to skip out on the blessing of Borei Pri Gefen. That's case number one. Case number two, scenario number two. What happens if you were in a bread meal and you had wine also in that bread meal? Now you decided to do Havdalah. Go ahead, do Havdalah, but you're not allowed to say the blessing of Borei Pri Gefen and the kos Shel Havdalah. Scenario number three, what happens if you were only drinking wine alone? Where after, when the stars come out, you are not allowed to drink. Even in such a scenario, we're going to tell you, when you're going to go ahead and do Havdalah, in order for you to be able to continue drinking, we're going to tell you over there, do not bless the blessing of Borei Pri Gefen and the kos Shel Havdalah. Rabotai, this is the halacha we hold like the stam, and that's what we do need to know. Have a great day. Baruch Adonai Olam. Amen ve'amen.